Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like something was stolen from you, but you can't quite name what it was? It wasn't your money, not your time. It was your energy, your clarity, maybe even a little of your self-worth. If you know that feeling, this video was made for you. We're not here to shame or to fight. We're here to reclaim calm. What I'll share with you today are quiet, powerful tactics to deal with narcissists, the kind that manipulate through charm, guilt, or silent control, without lowering yourself to their level. But first, a necessary boundary. This video is not for those facing physical abuse or threats. Your safety matters more than strategy. Please seek professional or legal help if you're in danger. Now here's what most people don't realize. Narcissists need your reaction like oxygen. They thrive when you explain yourself, defend yourself, or try to win them over. That's how they hook you. But when you shift the game, when your peace becomes your shield, they lose their grip. So take a breath, ground yourself, and let's begin your quiet revolution. Let's start with the first key, learning how to see clearly through their games. The first shift doesn't happen on the outside. It begins quietly inside of you. It's that moment when you stop second-guessing your gut. When you finally admit, wait, this isn't normal, this isn't love, this is a game, and I see it now. That's awareness. You don't need to scream it, just let it shape your presence. Look them in the eye, calm, not confrontational. Keep your posture tall. And when they try to bait you, a single line can speak volumes. I know what you're doing. No explanations, no debates, just the weight of knowing. Because here's the truth most people miss. Narcissists fear being seen, truly seen, not the version they perform, but the fragile core they hide under the mask. Your awareness pierces that illusion. Picture this. They try to spark jealousy, waiting for your reaction, but you don't flinch. You see the trap and step over it. That moment, that's power. And once you begin to see through the manipulation, the next step is learning not to react, no matter how loud the storm gets. Once you start seeing the game, the next test is this. Can you stop playing it? Narcissists crave reaction. Not resolution, not connection, reaction. They'll push every button, twist every word, just to see you break character. But here's the move that shifts the ground beneath them. Stillness. You don't argue, you don't explain. You don't even roll your eyes. You respond with the emotional equivalent of a stone wall. Okay, I understand. I hear you. That's the gray rock technique, not cold, just neutral. No color, no drama. Just silence that speaks louder than words ever could. And it drives them mad. Because when you stop feeding their fire, it dies. They don't know who they are without your reaction. Here's an example. They accuse you of being selfish. In the past, you'd list all the ways you've given and sacrificed, but now, you just say, that's your opinion and go on with your day. Important. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. You're not submitting, you're stepping out of the arena entirely. And once you stop reacting, something shifts. Their chaos doesn't pull you in anymore, which opens the door to something even more powerful. The courage to speak the truth they fear most. There comes a moment in every toxic dynamic when silence isn't strength anymore. It's avoidance. That's when truth becomes necessary. Radical honesty doesn't mean yelling or shaming. It means holding up a mirror without flinching, saying the thing they never expect you to say, not with anger but with clarity. You twist stories to make yourself look better. I see it. This isn't a conversation. It's a performance. And I'm done watching. Say it plainly. No insults, no sarcasm, just facts. Spoken calmly like you're describing the weather. It stings. Because narcissists live in a fantasy where they're always the victim or the hero. Your truth. It cuts through that fog. Here's what's important. Don't turn it into a battle. One truth spoken cleanly is enough. You're not there to convince them. You're there to free yourself. Picture this. They rewrite the past to make themselves look noble. You look them in the eye and say that's not what happened and you know it. Then you stop talking. The silence that follows, that's where their mask begins to slip. Truth is uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. And once you've spoken it, you unlock the next move in your quiet power, treating them like they simply don't matter. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can offer is nothing. Not anger, not praise, not even disapproval, just indifference. Narcissists survive on emotional currency. Your attention is gold to them, whether it comes in the form of applause or outrage. So imagine the impact when you treat their words like background noise. They brag, okay. They poke for a reaction, interesting. And then you change the subject. You don't clap, you don't correct, you don't play. It's not about being cold, it's about being immune. Because when you stop acting like they're the sun around which your world revolves, their illusion begins to collapse. Think of it this way. They send a passive-aggressive text meant to stir you. In the past, you'd obsess over a reply. Now, you leave it on read and go live your life. That quiet neutrality? It's a signal they can't control you anymore. And the more you pull your validation away, the more they feel the sting of your absence. Which brings us to the next shift, one that cuts deeper, showing them clearly that their opinion holds no weight at all. At some point, you stop seeking their approval, and that's when the game truly ends. Rejecting a narcissist isn't about confrontation. It's about showing them that what they think no longer shapes who you are. You don't need to shout, "I don't care about your opinion." You show it. In your silence, in your shift, in your refusal to be pulled back into their story. They start playing victim, you change the subject, they make a sarcastic comment, you blink once and move on, and if they push harder, you say it calm and clear. That sounds like a you problem. They'll try to provoke more, they might double down, guilt trip, or even pretend to care. That's expected. You're removing their favorite mirror, the one that reflected their ego back to them. Rejection isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the moment you stop living for their attention and start living by your own values. And the more consistent you are, the faster their grip unravels. But what if you went a step further and let everyone else see the truth too? Narcissists craft their image like a sculpture, flawless, admired, untouchable. But what happens when the spotlight shifts and people start seeing the cracks? Public exposure isn't about humiliation. It's about revealing truth where they least expect it, around others. You don't need to accuse. You ask questions. In that story you told, didn't something different happen last week? Or, why do you always leave out that part? Simple, direct, innocent on the surface, earthquaking underneath. Because when others are watching, the narcissist's greatest fear rises, being unmasked. Imagine this, you're at dinner with friends. They start spinning a tale where they're the victim once again. Calmly you say, "That's interesting, I remember it differently." And then you look them in the eye and say nothing else. The room shifts. The tension hangs. They know. You know. And now others begin to wonder. This moment plants a seed. It shows them they can't rewrite reality without being challenged. And that changes everything. But be warned, exposure can trigger retaliation. That's why it must be rare, intentional, and always controlled. Once the mask slips in public, their power dims. And that's when a new tactic stings the most. Letting them know they're not even the best at being impressive. Narcissists crave uniqueness. They don't just want to be liked. They want to be the best you've ever known. So what happens when you admire someone else, right in front of them? Their armor cracks. You don't need to insult them. Just shift the spotlight. Subtly. That's funny. Mark handled a similar situation with so much grace. You know who's really sharp with that kind of thing? Julia. Nothing mean, just matter of fact, and it burns, because beneath the mask, narcissists are deeply insecure. And comparison, especially when it's casual and unprovoked, hits the softest nerve. It reminds them they're not irreplaceable, that you see value in others, that your admiration is no longer theirs by default. But be wise. Don't overdo it. One well-placed comment says more than a dozen jabs. Subtlety is your strength, And when used sparingly, this tactic does more than shake their confidence. It reveals a new truth. You've stopped looking up to them, and soon, you'll stop looking at them at all. Which leads us to the next, most silent strategy of all, the art of ignoring someone completely. Some battles aren't won by fighting. They're won by refusing to show up. Ignoring a narcissist isn't about being petty. It's about cutting off the supply they rely on most. Your attention, no replies, no reactions, no emotional breadcrumbs. They send a message, you leave it unread. They drop a passive-aggressive comment, you act like you didn't even hear it. They try to provoke you one last time. You move through the moment like it never happened. This isn't easy. You'll feel the pull, the urge to explain, to defend, to say just one last thing. But every reply is a thread, and they'll use it to reel you back in. So you cut the thread. You unfollow. You block. You create distance not just physically but emotionally. Not with hate, but with healing. Here's the truth. To a narcissist, your silence isn't empty. It's unbearable. Because when they realize you no longer respond, they're forced to face what they truly fear. They've lost control. And that's when your life begins to rebuild. Because what comes next isn't about them anymore. It's about you and your joy that no one can touch. The final blow is joy, not revenge, not proving them wrong, just living well, laughing deeply, sleeping peacefully, creating a life where they no longer exist, not even as a shadow, because nothing unsettles a narcissist more than seeing you happy without them. They'll scroll through your photos. They'll hear about your promotion. They'll notice the light in your eyes when someone else talks about you. And here's the twist. You're not even doing it for them. You've stopped performing. Now you're living. It's in the quiet mornings. You spend walking alone feeling whole. It's in the new friendships built on truth, not games. It's in your laughter, real, unfiltered, no longer measured. You post a photo at the beach. They feel the sting of your peace. You share a story of growth. They envy the healing they can't fake. But you're not looking back anymore. Because your life no longer revolves around pain. It orbits around possibility. And the more you thrive, the more distant they become. A faded chapter in a story that keeps unfolding. But if they ever try to return, there's one final door you must be ready to close completely. Some people need closure, others need distance. With a narcissist, distance is closure. Going no contact isn't a tantrum. It's not dramatic. It's a conscious, radical act of self-respect. You're not cutting them off to punish them. You're cutting them off because they no longer belong in your life. You delete the number, you block the accounts, you let the silence stretch, and you don't explain it. Not because you're cold, but because you're done explaining yourself to someone who never truly listened. And yes, it might ache at first. You might question if it was too harsh. You might write a letter you'll never send. That's okay. That's healing. What matters is this. You are no longer an actor in their drama. You've stepped off the stage. You've walked out of the cycle. And now, you're free to rebuild without their voice in your head. If they try to come back, remember this moment, not out of bitterness, but as a promise to yourself. You don't go back to what broke you. And from here, the only direction left is forward. You didn't need to fight them. You needed to find yourself again. These 10 strategies weren't about control. They were about reclaiming your peace, your voice, your life. Quietly, steadily, without apology. Because narcissists don't truly change. But you can. You can walk away. You can heal. You can rewrite the rules of your relationships, starting with the one you have with yourself. And if today's video gave you even one moment of clarity, hold on to it. That's your compass. Now you deserve calm. You deserve truth, and most of all, you deserve to be free.